home even merrier with up to 50% off select holiday decor clearance. Plus, don't miss our limited time weekly deal drops on items like appliances, tools, grills, and more. There's something for everyone on your list. Count on Lowe's to help you save all season long because Lowe's knows deals. Valid 12/12 through 12/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
The GCU men's basketball squad is coming off their winningest season in 35 years, their third trip to the NCAA tournament in 4 years, and their first ever NCAA tournament victory. Returning 4 of their 5 starters in Ray Harrison, Colin Moore, Duke Brennan, and reigning WAC Player of the Year Tyon Grant Foster, the Lopes look to defend their WAC titles and make a run to the Sweet 16. With a non-conference slate including Stanford, Georgia, and crosstown rival Arizona State, you won't want to miss a moment of the action. So join me, Michael Potter, and Lopes insider Paul Coro all season long right here on the home of the Lopes, 1580 The Fanatic. Lopes up.
It's fall football season, and Kasai Japanese Steakhouse is doubling down, now with 2 Valley locations. When it comes to Asian cuisine, no one does it better and more authentic than Kasai, where talented Teppan chefs create the food, the fire, and the fun of teppanyaki. Kasai Japanese Steakhouse isn't just dinner, it's dinnertainment. A memorable dining experience where a delicious 7-course meal is paired right at your table with flair. It's a perfect choice for celebrations, date nights, or a night on the town. Choose from over 30 different items and combinations of teppanyaki, Asian fusion, and innovative sushi. Happy hour is always on fire and offered daily with specials on their Asian-inspired comfort food like Korean steak tacos, Mongolian barbecue ribs, and signature Wagyu beef sliders. Always a memorable dinner, or catch the game and a bite at the bar. At Kasai, now at 2 locations, Scottsdale Road in Thunderbird, and in Peoria at the 101 in Northern. Go to KasaiTeppan.com. That's Kasai Teppan.com, or search Kasai on your mobile phone.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM. Wherever you go, take us along. Listen to our live stream on our free Fanatic app. Download it today.
And welcome back to Beat the Book. Today, if you are paying attention to your calendar, observant, your phone's telling you, I don't know, it's Thursday, and that means that it's time for Thursday Night Football. That's coming up tonight, right after the Daily Blender, right after this show. Who am I? I'm Keon Rose. Alongside me is our betting expert, Dylan Cohen. We are broadcasting from the Harmon Solar Studios in sunny uptown Scottsdale here at 1580 The Fanatic. And today on the show, we have a lot of football to get to. That's going to be actually in segment number 2. We'll wrap the show up with some NBA picks and some of the games that are going on tonight. But the reason why I'm saving the introduction for segment 1 for last is because there may be a major trade, or at least trade rumor going out, and it may involve your Phoenix Suns and Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. We'll talk about it. We'll get to it here in just a second on the text line. That's where you are, 888-368-1580. How are you doing? How are your picks last night? How are your bets? Mine didn't go well. I put Jalen Brunson in too many parlays. Don't laugh at me. I thought it was going to work. It did not. So you can do all of those things. We'll get to you there on the text line. But before we get to any and all of those things, Dylan, who powers the show?
That would be Sport Trade. And make sure that you download Sport Trade, use promo code 1580 to take advantage of their 10% cashback promotion for new account signups, and be sure to tune in to Beat the Book tomorrow, because that is when Sport Trade CEO Alex Kane will be back on the program. And if you happen to recall from his last interview with us back on Friday, he had foreshadowed that there is a new promotion that is going to be launched that he is going to get into with us. So in addition to the implied probability contest, where you have the chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card and $50 in cash sent directly to your Sport Trade account, there is another perk that is going to be revealed tomorrow that is going to be something that anyone that uses Sport Trade can take advantage of to try and, get a bit of extra money out of your wins on there. So that is something that I am looking forward to. But with that being said, the most pressing news of the day, I would have to say, is something that came out last night, and it came from Shams Charania, who is the head authority on NBA news, gossip, He is the guy that's going to break these kinds of things. It's not exactly a secret that Jimmy Butler has potentially been on the trading block for the Miami Heat. He and the team were not able to agree to a extension over the offseason, which did cast his future with the franchise in doubt. And that is exactly why there is all this chatter going on right now. So it was already known that he had his eyes set on the Dallas Mavericks. He was interested in potentially going back home to Houston. That's where he's from. He's open to playing to the Golden State Warriors, who wouldn't be. But what did come out, which was completely new, and this is now really just kind of shaken up the whole dynamic, is that Jimmy Butler is interested in joining the Phoenix Suns. Now, why is he interested in joining the Phoenix Suns? Because Jimmy Butler is 34 years old. He has accomplished a lot in the postseason, but he has not been able to, scale to the top of the mountain and claim an NBA title.
He's had a couple of cracks at it. Just hasn't been able to get over the hump.
And I mean, he's gotten close. He's seen what he can do with this Heat franchise. And at this point, what's important to him, it's not the money. I mean, he's been very upfront about that. He's been, fortunate to have a long, successful NBA career. He's made plenty of money over that period of time. What is important to him right now is to have the experience of winning a championship and getting a ring. So when he's looking at his potential suitors, what he is valuing the most is which team is in that win now mindset. Who is willing to put all the chips into the center of the table to try and make something happen right now? And I don't think that there's another team out there that fits that description better than the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, even on his short list of teams, I still think that the Suns are, as far as his criteria go, for being a championship caliber team, even by those standards, the Suns are the team that fit him the best on that list of teams. So, here we are. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, just trying to kind of think out the logistics of it. What exactly would this trade look like? And you have to take into consideration the new salary cap rules in the league that makes these kinds of trades significantly more difficult to pull off than they used to be just a few years ago. So in this particular case, the one detail that a lot of people need to keep in mind is just simply that the Miami Heat are already above the first apron of the salary cap. So what that means for the Miami Heat is that in any kind of a trade that they look to make for Jimmy Butler, they cannot bring in more money than what they send out. So that in itself is going to be a dynamic that makes this trade difficult to pull off. Now, if you're the Suns, in terms of what contracts do we have that really kind of fit, any kind of a solution to get this trade done, there's just really no way for Phoenix to pull this off without Bradley Beal, potentially being involved. Could it perhaps be Devin Booker instead of Bradley Beal from the standpoint of the money? Yes. Devin Booker's 7 years younger than Bradley Beal, and he is, the cornerstone of the franchise, I would say. So, the likelihood of him getting traded in a transaction like this, I just think it's extremely low. It's probably not realistic. But then, with Bradley Beal, he has the no trade clause. So he's going to have a huge say in whether or not he's potentially moved.
And I don't know that you can sell him on Miami being a better situation for all the same reasons that Jimmy wants to come here. Why would Brad want to leave? He also wants to win a championship. He has a different path. He never got to an NBA Finals. He played for my Washington Wizards, who, have had some playoff runs, but never a deep, serious playoff run. You languish in an organization that never really did anything with you. And now you're on a contender. It's going to be hard to sell that guy on leaving and going to a place where the person you'd be getting back in return also thinks that spot's a better spot for a championship. Maybe they both agree. In fact, I would be inclined for that both of them would say Phoenix is the better championship spot, not Miami. So why would Bradley Beal waive the no trade clause and go to Miami?
We do know that at one point in Bradley Beal's career, he had a desire to go to Miami, because when he was back on the Wizards, the two teams that, he was essentially open to going to, it was Phoenix and it was Miami. But the caveat there is that that version of Miami has Jimmy Butler. And you have to assume that his interest in going to Miami was probably tied in being able to play with Jimmy Butler, who also at that time was much closer to, coming off a Eastern Conference, finals, victory, and, getting to where he got to in the NBA finals before, he had to go up against Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. So, the dynamic there is completely changed. And does he still have interest in Miami? Is it about being in Florida, being in South Beach, not having the income tax, or is it truly just about, playing with Jimmy Butler and being on a contender?
Yeah,
we don't know at this point.
Well, I think we kind of do, because it was when he said that was in that window of time where the Wizards were shopping him, and he gave them a list, and his list included Miami, but also here. And so Miami wasn't willing to give up what Phoenix was, and that's how Bradley Beal wound up here. He also chose to be here. So it wasn't necessarily about South Beach and Miami or the income tax, because Bradley Beal also at 31 years old has had a successful NBA career. He's made plenty of money. Some of these guys do just want to win championships, and you're just not getting that in Miami if you take Jimmy Butler out of there and send Bradley Beal back. For Miami, this works in a lot of different ways. Mostly they can just get Jimmy out of there. It doesn't seem like that's working very well for them. And then they could just kind of ride out the Beal contract. But for Beal himself, I don't know that necessarily helps him achieve his goals of also wanting to win a championship.
Now, there was another detail in all of this that literally broke the second this show went on the air. And you make what you want out of this detail, because the one thing that we know about Jimmy Butler is he is the troll of the league. He is the number one troll. This is the same guy that showed up to his media day a couple of years ago with like emo makeup on, eyeliner. He had the straightened hair. He had piercings, all for the sake of all of that just being in his media photos that get used constantly throughout the season.
Yeah, he had the extensions, the 1 year.
I admire it. I completely admire
it's fun.
It is
totally
absolutely
fun. Great and good for good for basketball, rather.
So Jimmy Butler, and completely true story. If you do not believe me, just go ahead and tune into the Miami Heat game that's going to take place later tonight against the Raptors. Jimmy Butler has apparently dyed his hair orange. So you make of that whatever you think that's indicative of, but could be just another thing indicating what he's hoping for, or it could just be his own little way to keep the media buzz going and, just have us all freak out over a little detail that means absolutely nothing. We will just have to wait and see. But curious about your thoughts. Do you think Jimmy Butler coming to the Suns, does that help us? Does that get us closer to an NBA championship? Personally, in terms of taking a home run swing this year to try and make the maximum effort to win right now, if this were to work out best case scenario, and let's just say we pull off some kind of a trade, we get Jimmy Butler, it costs us Bradley Beal, but we still have a big three makeup of Booker and Durant and Jimmy Butler. The one element of this that I cannot let go of is that we know what Jimmy can do in the playoffs. We have seen like the best case scenario of it. We have seen this proven commodity where he can play the game at a level that is so high that people jokingly talk about him as if he is the illegitimate child of Michael Jordan. And that to me is like one of the most ultimate compliments of all. The only other person that gets praise like that I can think of is like Anthony Edwards. Other than those two guys, you don't hear about a lot of people being like, oh my God, he's so good. He must be Michael Jordan's kid. That is the level of that we've got out of Jimmy Butler. Bradley Beal, we haven't seen him get into those deeper rounds of the playoffs. He hasn't really had the stage to have those kinds of moments. So it's hard to just cast him out and say that he's not capable of it.
And he has had big moments in the playoffs before. Again, never on a championship run. So like that's where there is a little bit of a difference. But has Bradley Beal had big performances in the postseason? Yeah, as a Wizard. And if you weren't watching the Wizards back then, and I get it, then you didn't see them. But like he is capable of elevating his game to a point where he can take over a game. But either of these guys are going to have to be third fiddle on this team. And they're going to have to know that Does Jimmy know that?
And
That's my question. And like, for me, I don't want to upset this locker room. I also think that your coach is Mike Budenholzer, who wants you to play the game a certain way, specifically shooting the 3-ball more so than in the mid-range. Beal can do that very well. In fact, of all the stats that they have together, when you compare them head to head, that's like the one thing that Beal's kind of got the edge, that in free throw shooting, which again means you're going to the basket and you're making those shots, which Bud also wants. Is Jimmy Butler's style of play conducive to what Budenholzer wants? I don't think so, personally.
I have to agree with you on that. And that's where, Jimmy Butler has a strong personality, but where we've seen him butt heads with people before in the past, it's the guys that just don't take it as seriously as him. And I don't,
or that he perceives that way,
or he perceives it that way,
which kind of brings me to my other thing, which is like Devin Booker's in a shooting slump. If that continues and Jimmy Butler comes here, is Jimmy Butler going to take that as Devin not playing hard enough? Or I don't know, because Booker's respected in the league. I get that, but like, that's never stopped Jimmy from hating a guy before.
No, that's true. I just don't think it's really in Devin's DNA to show the qualities that would like set Jimmy off the way that, Ben Simmons in the past and Karl Anthony Towns in the past, really frustrated him to the point where, he would like really make a point out of, just beating these guys up in practice to be like, you guys do not take this thing seriously enough.
Yeah.
And Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, I just don't necessarily see him getting on their case. However, maybe like a Yusuf Nurkic, I could see Nurkic
maybe Nurkic
getting a lot of crap.
I think Booker puts in the work, but it's like, are you going to see it that way if the guy's still not shooting well, whether or not that's his fault? And we can talk about that as well. But like, do you see? Is he going to see it that way and be fair that way? I don't know. He's in a perfect situation for him in terms of Heat culture. It's all about competitiveness. It's all about that desire to win. That should be his ideal situation, and it's not working. So you're not guaranteed that everywhere in the NBA. You have the potential to take a thing that's good here, and in an attempt to make it better, you could break it. And I personally don't think you can afford to do that with all of the assets they've already sunk into everything about this team.
So, I look at a guy like Tyler Hero right now on the Heat, and that's someone that has had a career of just being kind of a streaky shooter. And he's having a particularly good season right now, but
he's had his moments.
He's had years of just being like underwhelming. And to me, that's a great example of like, we never saw Jimmy turn on him.
Okay, that's fair.
And it's just because, behind closed doors, like he's a guy that fits into that Heat culture, hardworking, Jimmy's not going to question him. I just don't see that happening with a guy like Devin, who's really proven himself up until this point. He did get the Suns, granted with some help from Chris Paul, DeAndre, and Mikal Bridges, a few years ago.
No, it's impossible to do without Booker.
Yeah, I mean, right. It's completely impossible, to go all the way to the NBA finals, and win a couple games in the finals without Booker. I mean, there is a resume and a pedigree there. But we're really curious to hear your thoughts. What do you guys think about Jimmy Butler potentially joining the Suns? Text us, let us know, 888-368-1580. That conversation ended up going a little bit longer than I had planned there. But that's all right. Real quickly, we did have some NBA going on last night. If you follow the Beat the Book picks, we are having a strong week. We had a 6-4 night yesterday on the picks. And there are another 10 bets that were posted for the NBA tonight and the NFL that's on tonight as well. So make sure you check those out. You can follow me on Instagram. The handle is at Beat the Book Fanatic, all spelled out. If you just hit the link in the bio, that'll take you right to the Beat the Book website where the bets are posted. You can also visit 1580thefanatic.com. Click on the Beat the Book with Dylan Cohen logo. That'll take you right to the same place so you can see what those picks are that we are recommending. Hopefully you caught this show yesterday when we were going over that Atlanta Hawks and New York Knicks matchup. I tried to warn everyone, the Hawks are a very competitive team. I did not agree with where the spread was. I recommended taking Atlanta on the spread. I talked about the numerous upsets that they've already had this season where they were, pregame priced, as high as plus 700, plus 800 in games going up against the Celtics, the Cavs. They've won those before. last night. They were an 8.5-point underdog. They were priced roughly about 3-1 on the money line pre-tip-off. And if you happen to get in on the Atlanta Hawks, first half of the game, little bit of a sweat, but come the third quarter, Atlanta ran away with it. So really excited to see those guys play in Vegas. How'd you feel about Trae Young yesterday, Keon?
He's fun, man. Trae Young is my favorite player to watch in the league right now. Not because I think he's the best player. I just think he's the most fun player. I think he's the most serious about putting on a show for fans, about big performances. And there's a reason why when he goes to MSG, he has some of his best games, and against that team and against that fan base, and they don't like him, and he has a fun time messing with them. And it's just fun to watch. I mean, like the greats always do well at MSG. And I don't know if Trae Young's going to go down as one of the greats, but he loves that building. And there's just something magical about knowing, okay, the Hawks are going to play the Knicks tonight. I got to make sure I put some time aside to watch this game. And it never disappoints. He never disappoints anyway. I mean, sometimes the rest of the team has failed to show up, but you never get a bad New York performance from Trae Young. He does it again, absolutely delivers. I've got almost nothing to say. The guy is just cool as the other side of the pillow, as Stuart Scott used to say when it comes to these big games and big performances.
I would have to say the Knicks and the Hawks it's almost up there with like Heat Celtics is like one of the great Eastern Conference rivalries right now. And we hadn't seen Trae Young go to Madison Square Garden and really have kind of like a hallmark signature moment in a little while.
Yeah.
So that was like really cool. The NBA fan in me, at least, just to be able to watch him, have that moment. He did the whole, throwing the dice, at center court. He's playful.
He's playful. It shows that he understands the city, which I think is pretty cool. Just like, if you've ever walked past a New York City bodega, you'll see people shooting dice like that. that just does happen. He gets New York almost better than Knicks players do.
Well, it's like twofold, because then it was also kind of like a reference to Vegas, and like, he's shooting some craps right there. They're on their way. So
he's just a very, I don't know. He gets what makes basketball fun. I feel like there's not nearly enough of those guys in the league. And yeah, I mean, I'm always going to be pumped for a Trae Young performance. The ice tray delivered last night.
The ice tray, absolutely. Now, other than that, there was another NBA Cup game that went on. This one had a pretty controversial ending. The Houston Rockets were victorious over the Golden State Warriors. Final score 91-90. And if you happen to catch the final 30 seconds of this game, it was really close. The Warriors, after being down for much of the first half, got back up in the second half. They actually had the lead. They were up 90-89 with 3.5 seconds left, and players were diving for a loose ball. It seemed like a play where they should have had a jump ball called. Instead, refs called a foul on the Warriors. Rockets got 2 free throws with 3 seconds left that put them up 1. Warriors couldn't hit the final shot, and that was how they lost. So, if you were following the Beat the Book picks, the recommendation there was to take Warriors on the spread, which was 2.5. So just barely covered there, but
gritting it out.
It's all we needed. And, it was a solid night in terms of picking the winners. Jalen Brunson, unfortunately, he bamboozled me. I very much thought he was going to show up in that Knicks-Hawks game. That was disappointing. I talked to a number of people.
He was trying, by the way. It's not like one of those where he just, like the Chris Middleton a couple days ago, where
different.
He just wasn't.
He shot the ball twice.
Yeah, like Brunson was trying. He just had an off night.
So, and that is the risk that you run, playing these markets, betting the NBA. It comes with the territory. But that's why you got to differentiate your bets. You can't put, one guy's prop on everything. The more that you can.
Valuable lesson learned.
You know what? I still fall victim to it too, though. I mean, it's tough.
Oh, so. Of all the ones to put on everything, I should have put Trae Young on everything if I was going to do that. But alas, here we are.
So is what it is, but we've got another night ahead of us. We've got Thursday night football here on 1580 The Fanatic. You'll be able to catch the broadcast for that after the Daily Blender, which is on right after Beat the Book. But I know we're up against a break right now, Keon. So let's get to that. And then when we come back, we're going to get into a preview of the Thursday night football game tonight between the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. You are listening to Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Sports betting apps are created equal. Dylan Cohen from Beat the Book here to talk about the Sport Trade Advantage. With higher payouts, Sport Trade is the ultimate sports betting experience. Sport Trade is the first sports betting app that gives you the option to see the odds expressed as probabilities, and it's changing in-game betting forever. If it's easier to understand 52% probability of winning versus minus 108 odds, then Sport Trade is for you. With this percent odds feature, cashing out now makes much more sense. As the win probability changes, so does the value of your bet. And if you're an experienced bettor and prefer American odds, you'll get pricing closer to minus 106 versus the normal minus 110, coupled with instant in-play betting. No more spinny wheels. So download Sport Trade today to see the difference and beat the book. Use promo code 1580 to earn 10% cash back on every bet you place in your first week. Terms apply.
Sport Trade is regulated by the Arizona Department of Gaming. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-694-1010. That's 1-800-694-1010. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. 1-800-694-1010. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Learn more at Viking.com.
Hi, guys. Jeffrey O'Brien here. Have you ever gone to HarmonSolar.com? Well, you really need to, because everything you ever wanted to know about how solar power can save you big on your monthly electric bill is right there. It's online. Through your phone or through your computer, you can learn about tax credits, the equipment they use, look at how they do things for businesses as well as homeowners, see testimonials from happy customers, and I hear they got a pretty good podcast too. Check it out. Go to HarmonSolar.com. That's HarmonSolar.com.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
So I don't know if this answers the question of how people feel about Jimmy Butler. But Pickle D on the text line said this text, and I'm clearing my throat here because I want to do this justice. And now for your Phoenix Suns, welcome to the floor, Timothy Butler. Yeah. So there you go. Pickle D may be on board for the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes out there.
You know, if that trade does go down, we better be getting Jimmy Butler back, you know, because
that's the thing is you can't get average Jimmy. He's going to have to be that dude.
Playoff Jimmy Butler. Like, now, Jimmy, if you're serious about, like, I want to go to a win now place, then we want win now play out of you. So that would have to be the arrangement. And look, if we got Jimmy Butler, not Jimmy Butler, if we got Jimmy, I feel bad for the rest of the league, because Jimmy Butler with like just Bam Adebayo, I mean, we saw what they did.
That guy's pretty cold. So I understand. But there's, to me, just you're not guaranteed that.
And that's
because he's 35. It's not because he wouldn't try. It's the reality of being 35 years old.
It's the risk of the situation
after a full NBA career. Yeah,
completely agreed. So, you know, with that being said, we've got a NFC West showdown here that, I mean, does this game really have implications for the Cardinals? Like, kind of, you know, I mean, would it be helpful if the Niners beat the Rams here? Sure. But more than anything, we went over the odds the other day. I mean, the NFC West has essentially separated into like a 2-team showdown now between the Rams and the Seahawks. So, as a Cardinals fan, I guess it's kind of hard for me to lean, one specific way or the other here. But, with this being Thursday night football, you've got the Rams, on a short week, being on the road, having to play in an outdoor stadium that is looking like it might have a little bit of rain tonight. It's still going to be elements that they'll be, playing in compared to, being in their stadium back home. And I do think that still just impacts these teams. Naturally, I am leaning towards the 49ers in this one. Keon, how do you feel about this matchup?
I'm kind of going the other way. I mean, I do think it's going to affect the Rams and their passing game, but I think it's going to affect the Niners too. Like the Niners running the football the way that they have, they've gotten reliable production, but it's not as versatile as it has been in the past. Because obviously, when you have McCaffrey, you can do more things out of running set than you can, with any other running back in the league. And then obviously, like there just hasn't been nearly as much attention given to Debo in that aspect of the game either. And part of that is that Debo didn't want that, and the Niners don't want to necessarily run Debo into the ground. So here we are. But I do think that like it's kind of a two-way street as far as the elements go. Both of these teams want to throw the football. I'm going to go with the hotter quarterback. I just think Matthew Stafford right now is absolutely on fire. He's making throws a week ago that just were perfect throws. He couldn't have put the ball anywhere else. And he did every single time. Do I think he's going to play at that level this week? Probably not. Seems a little unrealistic to ask, but can he play at a very high level this week with his weapons out there, with his defense playing much better and feeling very confident that they can probably make a push to make the playoffs? I don't know if they can get the division from the Seahawks, but the Commanders have that 7th spot in the NFC. The Commanders screw that up a little bit. The door is wide open for any team that's 8th, 9th to try and weasel their way in, and the Rams are right in position for it.
So I was looking at Matthew Stafford and his passing production. Naturally, I was pretty inclined to, look to put out some kind of a prop bet on his passing yards. And the one thing that held me up from that, if you look at the 49ers and you go through like all their box scores so far this season, like there's really like one instance of a quarterback like really going off passing yards wise. It was the first time that they played the Seahawks this season. Geno Smith threw for like just over 300 yards. Every other quarterback they've gone up against, and I'm surprised that this doesn't really get kind of shouted out more, like they do not get serious passing yards. And when I saw this like enough times, it just completely scared me off of wanting to put out any kind of like a Matthew Stafford passing yards prop. I originally, like I kind of had it in my initial draft to do like, Matthew Stafford for 225 plus, maybe just kind of take his line down a little bit. But then when I saw this like trend of like, oh my God, like everyone seems to actually struggle, like this passing defense.
And good quarterbacks too.
Right.
Like, it's not just they played a bunch of bad teams. Like Josh Allen had a good game against them, but he didn't have a Josh Allen game against them.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I mean, Kyler Murray, even in the victory that he had against them,
absolutely.
That was 200 yards.
That was an ugly game. And, you could even go back to Stafford's own numbers. The last time that they played, that was a nearly 200-yard game for Stafford as well. Granted, no Puka at the time, no Cooper Kupp at the time. It was Tutu Atwell as the number one target in that game. So, could Stafford struggle here a bit? Yeah, the Niners defense, especially in the secondary, isn't that wrecked. Like a lot of their issues are up front.
And that's where it's kind of this head-on clash between two pretty prominent and strong trends right now. You have this trend of generally pretty good passing defense from the Niners. And then on the other side with Matthew Stafford, the guy has thrown for 290 plus passing yards in 3 out of his last 5 games. So, at least the recency with the personnel that he was lacking for most of the season, you'd have to be inclined that this is probably a little bit more of an accurate picture of, what this offense is going to look like, just like on any given day. So, is it still possible that, Stafford could, go over his line? Of course. You take a look at his passing yards prop right now. His line is set at 247.5. Brock Purdy's is sitting about 10 yards higher. He's at 258.5. And I'm looking at FanDuel right now. That's where I'm getting these numbers from. So if you look at the Beat the Book post, I had put on there to take Brock Purdy for 250 passing yards or more. This is another guy that, in recent games, over his last 5 games, 3 out of 5, he's thrown for 260 yards or more. And he did have 325 passing yards last week against the Bears, who, generally have had a pretty solid defense throughout the season. So, is it possible for him, facing the Rams defense to get the best of them? I think it's very likely. You could definitely look at, if you want to draw the lines, maybe slightly down on both quarterbacks. The one thing that I do just kind of see overall amongst sort of all the NFL games right now, and maybe you could speak to this a little bit better than I could, Keon, is that as we get later on throughout the season, and I think we've honestly even mentioned this before, like you can almost notice the defenses getting more tired. And then you're starting to see like the offensive production ramp up. And I'm talking like generally across the board, like all games, all teams, doesn't matter if it's Thursday or, Sunday or Monday, you're just starting to see the season take a toll on these players. And it feels like it's hitting the defenses a little bit harder than the offenses.
Yeah.
Are you noticing that?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the way it usually goes. Most of the rules are pro offense. And that means that the defense is already on the short end of the stick, when it comes to pass interference, when it comes to getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar, or you arrive too early trying to break up a pass. Like those are the little details that get affected when you're worn down in a season, where in the offense, like you're just executing your game plan. You're supposed to also, as a defense, have a game plan, but also react to what the offense is doing. So you're always on your heels. And when everybody's worn down, you're going to look worse. Like that just is kind of what happens with a lot of these defenses. And there are certain teams, most teams that are good anyway, like their defense is meant to work complementarily. So the front end of your defense and the back end of your defense have to coexist. If your defensive line's banged up, it's going to affect your secondary and vice versa. If your guys can't cover, then it doesn't matter how good your pass rush is. They can't get home in time to be able to take out a quarterback. So yeah, I think that over the course of a season, defenses do get worn down a lot. You're just trying to stay healthy enough to make a playoff push.
So, that concept, it just supports the notion that both of these teams very likely to put up some points today, and perhaps a play on the over, would be something to take a look at here. If you look at the Beat the Book picks, I did recommend doing an alternate over. And part of this was probably still being a little traumatized from the Cowboys and Bengals line, where we barely missed the over by like 3 points. And in that game, I had recommended just taking it on the line. What I should have done in hindsight, which is what I'm recommending now, is just drawing that line down a little bit more. So right now, the line on this game for total points, it's sitting at 48.5. And if you want to make that a little bit easier for yourself in terms of taking an over, I recommended taking it at 45.5. Right now, that's priced at minus 158 odds on FanDuel. So, both teams combined 46 points. Defenses are tired, short week. You're already a little bit tired from that. You've got 2 quarterbacks that are really just slinging the ball right now, and they're getting a lot of production out of their offenses here. Let's talk touchdown scorers right now. The one player that I did put on the Beat the Book site was actually Puka Nacua. He has just been a touchdown machine over his last 4 games. He has 4 touchdowns. And I believe in his last game, he had 1 receiving touchdown, and he actually had a rushing touchdown too.
Yeah, I mean, McVay is going to do some crazy things, line guys up in places that you don't expect them to be. And that's how that kind of stuff happens. And like, there just is no escaping it. As much as Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford had a connection, Puka Nacua is Matthew Stafford's favorite receiver. It's not close when they're both on the field and they're both playing well. Even when they're both going off, Puka just seems to always have that relationship with Stafford where he's always where Stafford wants to throw the ball. And that's just going to be, that's going to lend itself to big numbers on his part, which is the reason why, even though I think this Niners defense has been really good against quarterbacks, those are two weapons that I think will stretch any defense to capacity in terms of trying to figure out how to slow them down.
Well, and looking at this market right now for like an anytime touchdown score, you got Puka Nacua priced as the fourth most likely player. That's between both teams. He's currently at plus 125 for an anytime touchdown. And, this is something where it's not my favorite bet. We haven't really talked about this a lot, but it's just kind of more of like a novelty sort of fun bet to play. It does carry significantly higher odds than just taking an anytime touchdown. And I'm talking about betting on the player to get the very first touchdown of the game. You can use these bets to create like really massive, paying parlays. That's where you see, some guy who got, 4 or 5 first touchdown scores correct, and that's the kind of bet that's like $5 to win like 15 grand. Now, I'm only highlighting this. I'm not saying, go out and, create your first touchdown scored parlay. However, I actually like Puka Nacua at plus 750 to be the very first touchdown scorer in this game. The only person on the Rams that's favored above him is Kyren Williams. Is there a player that you like other than Puka to score anytime or perhaps even first?
Yeah, probably Kyren Williams. 1,000-yard rusher already at this point in the season. Guy's having an incredible year. And there is a world where that throw to Puka doesn't get to the end zone. It gets to the 9. That's probably Kyren Williams touchdown. Like if we're 100% honest. So yeah, I would say Kyren probably of all the Rams. And then I don't know, maybe Niners. You could go Garendo.
Well, I wanted to ask you about Debo because, Debo's production, it's been down recently. He was in the media. Someone asked him about it and he said, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just not getting the ball. So now naturally there's a part of me that's kind of like, all right, well, is this the spot where, Debo finally gets the ball because he finally complained about not getting the ball?
He could. That doesn't always work. Like that is some players complain, and depending on what their status is on the team, how the quarterback plays. Because Brock Purdy is one of those guys that just dishes it around. If you're open, you get it. If you're not open, guess what? You don't get it. Like I don't think Brock's the guy that forces it to people. And I think that Shanahan's game plan is built around running the ball. So I don't think that because he complained, he'll necessarily get it, but he could just out of, if he's willing to do some of the dirty work that he doesn't really want to do anymore, where like they're getting him that short yardage stuff and they're treating him as more a part of the running game, then yeah, I could see that happening. But Purdy specifically is not the guy that's like, oh, my receiver wants the ball, I'm going to force it to him. Purdy's like, no, if you're open, you get it. Debo hasn't really been separating this year. Like that's a problem that lends itself to like Debo not getting the ball.
So then, if that's kind of the school of thought, and I didn't do this before, but I'm probably going to look to do this now. Debo Samuel's line on receiving yards in this game, 53.5. His last 4 games, he hasn't had more than 22 receiving yards. He hasn't had more than 4 catches in a game. So, if you think this game is going to go similar to the 4 that have gone before it, taking that under would give you a lot of security. You've got like a whole 30 extra yards of security to work with compared to, the production that he's actually been putting on the field. So that's another bet to consider right there. Debo Samuel under 53.5 receiving yards. Or if you think this is the game where Brock rewards him because he, whined about it a little bit, then, you may want to consider taking him for, 80, 90, 100 yards just because you're going to get a payout on that you would not normally get, in any other week. Debo for 100 receiving yards is paying 6-1 odds right now. So, it's something to think about there. After hearing your thoughts about it, I would probably lean towards taking that under and the security on the under. But if you're a Niners fan and you feel like Brock Purdy better than either of us, and
which is more than possible,
could be, then maybe Debo's your guy tonight because his prices are great right now in terms of someone that is going to have a 80-90 receiving yard kind of game.
Yeah, so we'll get to some NBA picks on the other side. Maybe we'll touch some NFL some more, but boy, we are running out of time. Let me try to clean up the text line as best as I can. Pickle D says, I don't know, as exciting as it sounds to get Jimmy Butler, I kind of hope we don't. Sounds like a Durant trade 2.0. and we go back to having absolutely no bench and garbage rotation, it wouldn't just cost us Beal, except Beal's contract is big enough. It would cost you a pick, though. And that, I think, is reckless, personally. Booze and Raider says, I don't think Jimmy Butler would be the number 3. I think Kevin Durant would be 1. Jimmy would be 2. I don't know that you can do that in a franchise where Devin Booker is the legacy guy here, the only guy of those big players that was drafted here. Maybe Devin Booker can fall back and be third banana. I have serious doubts.
I don't know if the fans would buy into it. I don't know if everyone else kind of like
around. I don't know if Book would either. Not in like a throw a tantrum kind of way. Just a
haven't I done enough to kind of earn?
Yeah, like I've already moved to 2. Yeah. This is the team that drafted me. Yeah. This is my team. And I've already moved to 2. You're saying I got to move to 3 for a 35-year-old? It's like
I think he has that selflessness in him, but you're right. Like, I don't know if he would really be willing to.
Yeah, it's one thing to do it for Team USA. It's another thing to do it for Phoenix. It's very different. Swazban, I think we answered your question. He asked us what we thought about tonight's game. The only thing that he said that we didn't bring up was he had the small parlay bet on 49ers money line, Garendo touchdown, I believe anytime and under the 48.5 points for tonight, which, we'll see. Well,
could thread the needle there.
Yeah, so. you might be able to. It's not off the table. And then Las Toby says, Kyle for the first touchdown. Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk, always a threat for that. So there we go. Text line all clean. We'll come back and do what we can with the time that we have left. You're listening to Beat the Book right here on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens. And it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
At Diamond Dave's Desert Wholesale Diamond,
we offer incredible diamonds, both mined and cultivated, all at amazingly low prices.
Check out these cultivated lab-grown diamond earrings.
2 carats total weight, collection color and lab-grown, only $25.90.
And she'd love this amazing tennis bracelet in natural mined.
4 carats total weight in yellow or white gold, only $39.90.
And how about this diamond chain in cultivated?
12.5 carats total weight, collection color and lab-grown, only $79.90.
And last but not least, especially this year, 1.5 carat floating diamond pendant.
Collection color and lab grown, only $9.90.
Call, email, or message us for an in-person appointment.
Or sit back and relax for free FedEx shipping anywhere in the USA.
Call Diamond Dave at 480-397-2450. That's 480-397-2450. Or follow him on Instagram at Diamond Dave Cantor. That's at Diamond Dave, Kantor.
The holidays are just around the corner, so now's the time to shop new deals at Lowe's. Make your home even merrier with up to 50% off select holiday decor clearance. Plus, don't miss our limited time weekly deal drops on items like appliances, tools, grills, and more. There's something for everyone on your list. Count on Lowe's to help you save all season long, because Lowe's knows deals. Valid 12/12 through 12/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
The holiday is coming quick. If you're looking for a perfect gift that will impress, put Tupelo honey under the tree. It's luxury honey from right here in the U.S. True Tupelo honey is only found in Northwest Florida and is only harvested 2 weeks a year. At Smiley Honey, we're shipping all over the country with guaranteed delivery in time for Christmas. Tupelo honey is sweeter, lighter, and healthier, and it doesn't crystallize. SmileyHoney.com to order today. Tupelo honey, the gold standard of honey.
In most countries of the world, Porte means door. United Porte Custom Doors, located in the Scottsdale Airport Design District, is now open with over 40,000 European doors, all in stock, ready for delivery, and at wholesale prices. Designers, contractors, builders, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Porte, Porte. Stop by to see and feel the quality at United Porte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
We know how it goes. You can't always tune in and hear your favorite shows and hosts.
Dude, look, I'm a loser. Okay?
It's cool, bro. That's why we post podcasts of your favorite shows and hosts. Listen when you want to. Listen on demand.
That is great and frankly kind of amazing.
Go to 1580thefanatic.com to download.
We had a couple of segments go a little bit longer than we would have originally planned, which is okay because that means that the conversation is flowing. Everything was lively. No complaints over here, but it does mean that we have 5 minutes, DC, to get everything in that we want to. Where would you like to start?
Let's start with the Pistons and the Celtics game tonight in the NBA. Like what's happening right now tonight, this is where we're back to the regular season. So the NBA Cup stuff, it's now done for a little bit. They've, got the final 4 teams. Those guys will be in Vegas. We'll see those games coming up. But there is a few games going on. And between the Pistons and the Celtics, there was a little bit of breaking news a little while ago. Jason Tatum has been ruled out of this game. And that is going to throw a little bit of a wrench into the long shot parlay, which I had posted because he was on there. And then I also had Jason Tatum for 25 plus points tonight. So go figure. But I wanted to shout this game out because despite Jason Tatum not being there, it is still a game that is worth looking into for some of your bets. Pistons point guard Cade Cunningham. He is having the best season of his career so far. He's averaging just under 24 points per game. He's averaging just under 10 assists per game, third in the league in assists. And looking at this matchup, he has been someone that it's just been very, very profitable to bet on his props. So if you look at the Beat the Book site, I did put to bet on Cade Cunningham to score 22 or more points. But another prop that you can look at is actually his combined rebounds and assists. This is one that has just been consistently hitting all throughout the season. You take a look at his last couple of games. He had 25 combined rebounds and assists against the Knicks in his last matchup. Before that, against the Celtics, he had 23. And I'm going to pull up his line on this right now. Typically, his line for combined rebounds and assists is somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe like 14 to 16. So, for a guy that's averaging about 10 assists per game right now, he, really only needs to get roughly 6 rebounds or so, in order for that wager to win. So that is another good one that you can consider. Now that Jason Tatum is not playing, Jaylen Brown is going to be playing. His line on points bumped up a little bit. It's currently 26.5. But you can assume Jaylen Brown will be that primary scorer for the Celtics tonight. I would definitely feel comfortable taking him for 25 or more. He could certainly do 30 or more if you want to just basically substitute him in the long shot parlay for Jason Tatum. That would be completely appropriate. And then I do have that line pulled up here for Cade Cunningham. So for the rebounds and assists, it's at 15.5 right now, leaning over. I would definitely look to play that one, or if you're looking for an extra leg to add to a parlay, that'll help boost it. The other NBA game that I just wanted to shout out is going to be the last one between the Sacramento Kings and the New Orleans Pelicans. These are two teams that ironically meet a lot in like the play-in tournament. And it's happened like enough times now over the last like 3 seasons to where it's cultivated like a bit of like a rivalry.
A little bad blood, yeah.
So, with the way both teams are kind of made up right now, the Pelicans are missing Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Jordan Hawkins. They did get a number of guys back, but like they're still pretty shorthanded from their most talented guys. The Kings are full strength. Kings got everyone that will be there playing tonight. And this is going to be a good matchup to back the Kings. If you take a look at their most recent games, they've won 3 out of their last 4. And in their last 2 games, they have scored 140 points or more. So just as a team right now, offensively, they are clicking. The shots are falling. They're getting a lot of great production out of Kevin Huerter, their shooting guard. And like when he's hitting his shots and De'Aaron Fox is hitting his shots and DeMar DeRozan is hitting his shots, and Domantas Sabonis is getting 14, 15 plus rebounds. Pretty difficult to stop the Kings. So this is another one that's on the Beat the Book site. You can look to take them on the spread. But do not be surprised if the Kings end up winning this game by like 20 or more points. Their last game, they defeated the Utah Jazz at home by 34 points. And then, 44 points. And then they also won at the Spurs by 27. You take a look at the Pelicans' last 5 games. They have a 1-4 record. They, have been a little bit more competitive in some of those losses, but I think the bad blood really motivates the Kings to, push this and win by a very big margin.
So that'll do it for us. And again, if you want to check out the rest of those picks, that's on 1580thefanatic.com. Scroll down till you see the Beat the Book logo, which quite frankly is just Dylan's face. Click on Dylan's face, and then you'll get to the post for the day. Get all of that. Obviously, I don't know if you put out the 6 Point Play podcast.
This week I've been holding off on it just because we haven't had days of like a lot of games. Like
Right.
I typically need give me four games or more to work with, and then I can get a podcast out. So
Okay, well, there you go.
tomorrow there will be
So
one. We
there
have a
will
much
be
bigger
one
day.
tomorrow because
Yep.
we do have a bigger NBA slate. So thank you, Dylan, for that. And then we've got also the Instagram account where you can follow Dylan's picks. That's Beat the Book Fanatic at Beat the Book Fanatic on Instagram. It'll be the Daily Blender coming up next.